Hello everyone, my name is Jack. Today we're going to talk about mutilation in companion dogs. So, whether it is truly a clear cut as we thought it would be. To begin with, we will start by the definition of mutilation, followed by three case studies, three very different scenarios, from ear cropping, tail docking, to finally neutering. First of all, the definition of mutilation has been highlighted very clearly in the law, the Mutilations Permitted Procedures England Regulation in 2007. It refers to a procedure which involves interference with the sensitive tissues or bone structure of an animal otherwise than for the purpose of its medical treatment. In the regulation, it also highlighted a list of procedure which is considered legal even though it fits with the definition of mutilation. For example, castration, vasectomy, or removal of due claw as well as neutering. Let's talk about ear cropping. What is ear cropping? It involves the removal of part of the ear, which is also known as pinna. After the removal of the ear pinna, it gives the rest of the pinna a more stand-up shape. It is commonly done to certain breeds of dogs, for example the pit bulls, the boxer, and the Dobermans. This will give them a more regal and sort of intimidating look. Typically, it is done in the puppies less than 12 weeks old without anesthetic. It is illegal in the UK and majority of the EU. I will come on to explain why that matters in later on. Ear cropping. Even though it is illegal in the UK, we are seeing more and more cases of it. Between the year 2018 and 2020, there are 6 times more reports made to the RSPCA regarding ear cropping incidents. The BVA, in an unreleased study, shows that 58% of it has seen dogs with cropped ear even though they have never been travelled outside of the UK. Now, so why is ear cropping suddenly become so popular? First of all, I'm sure an effect that doesn't help is the involvement in celebrities. On the left here, you can see a TV star from Love Island actually owns a dog with cropped ear, as well as some singers from Little Mix. She also have a dog which has her ear cropped. Now, even though it's illegal in the UK, I actually managed to find a ear cropping kit very easily with just a few minutes of Googling. So on the kit here, you can see $28 for a kit designed for lay people to crop the ears. It costs about £25 and is very easy to get by. The year before, it is actually even easier. Amazon and eBay, Etsy, they all sell such kits, and now luckily they have decided to remove it. Now, there also is some people who actually export the dogs outside the EU to places like Russia to get their egg cropped. So, ear cropping. Those who carry out ear cropping, they do have some reasoning behind to support the cropping of the ears. First of all, they suggested it reduces the ear infections, which means when the ear is standing up, there are likely more air to get to the ear canal. The ventilation will help to bring the moisture away and reduce the any sort of yeast or bacterial infection, which is their claim. Now, secondly, is reduce the incidence of injuries to the ear. Sometimes we do see dogs with sort of a cauliflower ear, or we call hematoma, because from the sort of trauma to the ear, so it ended up filling with blood. However, there is no such evidence to support such claims at all. So, as far as I can tell, there's no evidence to suggest any of these claims are actually valid to this date. What about tail docking? Tail docking, as the name suggested, is removing of part of all of a dog's tail. It is it is quite commonly done for cosmetic or prophylactic, for also known as prevention and medical reasons. It first started dating back to Roman time, where hunting dogs were considered to have their dog tails shaved to prevent rabies and any further injuries. In the 19th century on, the docking of the tail is considered breed standard. Once again, the dogs that are subjected to such treatment are usually Rottweiler, Doberman, Cane Corso, or Boxers. Okay. So, tail docking is a procedure that is regulated by the Animal Welfare Act 2006. It has to be performed by a vet. It is restricted to some common hunting breed slash working breed, for example, English Spaniel, Jack Russell, Lakeland Terrier, Norfolk Terrier, etc. So it must be less than 5 weeks old, and the owner has to produce evidence to show that this dog is likely to be involved in some type of work in the future. Outside of the UK and the European Union and Australia, tail docking is still legal and permitted in a lot of the countries, including America. Procedure is often carried out without anesthetic. There is a surgical method by removing the tails and with a sharp scissors and stitching the skin over. The other one is the application of rubber band, which restrict the blood flow, and eventually the tail will die because no blood can able to get to the tail end, and hence is considered bloodless. One of the reasons why people want their dogs with a shorter tail is because it reduces the incidence of the injury to it. Now, in the UK, the BVA and the AVMA both make a stand against a blanket tail docking procedure because in this study done by Diesel et al. 2010, having looking through all the clinical data from hundreds and hundreds of vet practices, they make a statistical analysis, and in order to prevent one single tail injury, 500 dogs need to be dogged to achieve so. So that is the reason why they don't believe it is a procedure that's worth supporting. Now, however, in Lederer in 2014, he focused solely on just working dog. This study was done using a questionnaires on all the shooting dogs. Turns out 13.5% of all dogs has sustained at least one tail injuries, and of which 56% of spaniels actually is worst affected breed. During the procedure, as we discussed, there is no anesthetic and likely no pain relief or analgesia is used in puppy. Dogs, however, unlike other species such as sheep or cattle, both of these farm species are born with what we consider a mature neurological mechanism. Dogs is actually like mice. They're born with a very immature pathway. There are some a study done by Miller reviewing the pain receptor in dogs. Actually, he discovered that during the first 7 days after birth, puppy actually do not have a functional the cortical or subcortical connectivity in the brain to perceive pain. Now, secondly, is about the measurement of pain in puppies. Can we actually pain score them? No, because they are the way we pain score adult dogs cannot really be used in puppies. Nonetheless, the chronic pain condition is also worth discussing. Neuroma is essentially a swelling of the nerve end when they have been cut. It has been seen in dogs, piglets, infants, and adult human beings. It is capable of producing what we consider phantom pain or chronic pain in the long term, and it is very much well documented in dogs with cell-mutilated tails. Dogs are likely to experience pain for years after. Dogs with short tails also have effect on the communication as well. Dogs' tails are considered very important in dog-to-dog or dog-to-human communication. An author actually made a observational study based on 400 interaction between dogs, and although not very scientific, he believes that dogs with shorter tails are twice as likely to encounter an aggressive interactions. So what we do know that puppies are unlikely to experiencing the short-term pain, but there are chronic pain involved, and especially a effect on communication. Now, but we also know that about 50% of the working Cocker Spaniel also suffer from a tail injury, which is incredibly hard to treat. So I'm not sure it is as clear cut as we thought it would be. It might actually suggest there are some benefits as well to the high risk breed. Lastly, I would like to discuss another mutilation procedure which are very commonly done in the UK as well as many parts of the world. This is neutering. Neutering involves the removal of an entire or large proportion of dog's reproductive organs. Um, it is done under general anesthetic and likely providing a adequate level of pain relief by veterinary surgeons. Now, however, there is one exception in the world, which is Norway, and is currently considered illegal or less commonly performed. In the case of Norway, a blanket neutering is first of all prohibited by the Animal Protection Act in 1974. This act is actually subsequently replaced by the Animal Welfare Act of 2009. Now, in the Act of 2009, it actually placed an emphasis on welfare rather than a blanket banning of neutering. It suggests that such procedure must not be carried out unless there's a justifiable reason to do so, out of consideration for animals' health. What that means is that if the vets are consider this procedure medically beneficial, it can still legally perform it. So it's certainly worth talking about the pros and cons about neutering. So first of all, it changes the behavioral patterns. Bitches no longer come into season. There's no longer changes associated with season, for example, false pregnancy. In female, there's a lot of uterine infection, memory cancer, and uterine ovarian cancer, which can be prevented because if you remove the ovary, there couldn't be cancer. Same for male, there are considered a preventative treatment in prosthetic changes as well as testicular cancer. On the flip side of the argument, um, there is quite a lot of evidence showing that neutering can actually affect the skeletal development in bigger dogs as well as contributing to joint diseases. In bitches, because the lack of estrogen following the procedure, some of them become incontinent and there is considerable amount of weight gained. This is a paper done in 2020. So it actually provided a evidence guideline on when to neutering for my company. So the author has found that in larger breed, an early neutering, so before the first season, less than 6 months old, is actually associated with a lot of joint problem and bone growth. Essentially, the hormone is actually needed for the bone to fully mature later on. For example, in larger breeds such as German Shepherd or Golden Retriever, Labrador Retriever, if they were neutered before a year of age, it actually increased the joint disease by 2 to 4 times. Now, they also found out there's a higher chance of developing lymphoma, mast cell tumor, and hemangiosarcoma in neutered female. Up until 2020, there wasn't any evidence to suggest neutering reduces the incidence of memory tumor. But now in 2020, a new paper has released it and supports such claim. So they also compared the aggressiveness of the cancer in a neuter female. Actually, if they were to develop memory tumor, which is less likely, it is likely to be more aggressive and be more capable of spreading than those found in an entire female. Lastly, I would just to discuss the ethical dilemma related to neutering. Francicone actually suggested in one of his blogs to say that we made the mistake by domesticating non-human, and therefore we shouldn't breed them any further. However, I do disagree with this logic because sterilization is not a way out for slavery. Bonin actually suggested imposing a relatively minor harm in if that was done to protect their welfare later on. But as we know, their neutering is not without its downside. There are still a risk of developing memory tumor. There will still be pain involved, no matter how good the pain protocol is. And there are sort of related to incontinence as well. So I just want to discuss with you whether neutering is truly for animals' good or whether it is done based on cultural differences. Thank you very much, everybody. Hopefully, after this presentation, you guys will see that mutilation doesn't always have to be a harmful act. There are also good and bad with each procedure, and it is likely to be a ethical judgment rather than a scientific-based decision. These are the references. Thank you very much.